The Forgotten Room. In the House. Chapter 1. The house on Willow Street. The house stood on the corner of Willow Street, its age revealed by the chipped paint and overgrown ivy creeping up its sides. The locals in the town of Briarwood had always whispered about it, but no one seemed to know much of its history. It had been abandoned for as long as anyone could remember, except for the occasional odd sighting of an elderly man who seemed to live there alone, keeping to himself and never answering the door when anyone came to visit. When Anna and her family moved to Briarwood, they were looking for a fresh start. Anna, a young girl of 11, was thrilled by the idea of living in a new town, even if the house was a little old-fashioned. Her parents, tired of city life, were enchanted by the charm of the home's large backyard, tall windows, and vintage feel. The family had no idea what they were about to uncover, nor did they understand the significance of the house's hidden history. On the day they moved in, the house felt silent, as though it were holding its breath. Anna noticed it first, the door at the end of the long hallway, just beyond the kitchen, which had a peculiar, weathered look to it. The wood was darker than the rest of the doors, and the brass handle seemed a little out of place compared to the rest of the house's fixtures. It wasn't the most unusual feature of the house, but it sparked her curiosity. She mentioned it to her parents, but they were busy unpacking and dismissed it as nothing more than a quirk of an old house. That night, after the sun had set and the house settled into a quiet hush, Anna ventured down the hallway, her curiosity pushing her forward. She tried the door, but it was locked. It wasn't a regular lock, but an old-fashioned brass bolt, which seemed strange. Why would such a door be kept locked? The house had no other signs of unusual or secret spaces. So why this one? But her investigation was interrupted. When her mother called her for dinner, she left the door behind, but something about it stayed in her mind. Chapter 2. The dream. That night, Anna had a dream. It was dark and the air was heavy, like a storm was about to break. She found herself walking through the house, her bare feet echoing on the wooden floors. She moved towards the hallway, drawn by the same mysterious door. It was open now, and beyond it, a soft, eerie light beckoned her. She stepped into the room and gasped. The walls were lined with old portraits, but they weren't like the ones in the rest of the house. The people in the pictures looked unsettlingly lifelike, their eyes following her as she moved. The room was large, with a thick layer of dust on the floor, and in the middle stood an ancient oak-framed mirror. It was much larger than anything she'd ever seen before, towering almost to the ceiling. The reflection in the mirror, though, was strange. Anna didn't see herself, but instead a hallway stretching far beyond the confines of the room. The hallway was dark, lit by flickering candlelight, and at the end stood a door, much like the one she had found earlier. The reflection of the door seemed to call to her, and without thinking, Anna began to move toward it. As she reached for the handle, she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. Whipping around, she found herself staring into the pale eyes of a woman in a long, dark dress. "Don't go there," the woman whispered. "It's forgotten for a reason." Double quotes. Anna tried to speak, but her voice wouldn't come out. The woman's eyes grew wide with fear and she backed away, disappearing into the shadows. In that instant, Anna woke up, her heart racing, drenched in sweat. The dream was vivid and haunting. But was it just a dream? Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting for her, something tied to the forgotten room. Chapter 3. The search. The next morning, Anna was determined to find answers. The strange dream only heightened her curiosity about the locked room. She wasn't one to believe in ghosts or spirits, but the images from her dream felt too real, too connected to the house for her to ignore. She spent hours trying to find any clue that could explain the room's significance. She started with the basement, hoping to uncover some old records or documents. The basement was a labyrinth of old furniture, forgotten boxes and dusty shelves. Among the clutter, she found a set of old diaries. They were bound in leather and yellowed with age. She opened the first one, scanning the pages for anything that could give her a hint. The diary was written by someone named Evelyn Montgomery, the previous owner of the house. Anna learned that Evelyn had lived in the house many years ago, during a time when the town of Briarwood was smaller and more isolated. The entries began innocuously enough with descriptions of everyday life, family gatherings, the changing seasons and the growth of the garden. But as the pages turned, the tone began to shift. Evelyn spoke of strange occurrences, whispers in the walls, odd sensations in the room at the end of the hallway, and an increasing sense of dread. In one entry, Evelyn wrote about a room that should never have been opened. She claimed that the room had once belonged to her great-grandmother, a woman who was known for her eccentricities and strange behavior. Evelyn's family had warned her not to disturb the room, but her curiosity had gotten the better of her. When she opened the door, she was faced with a room filled with nothing but shadows and silence. But the moment she stepped inside, she felt something watching her, something old and hungry. The diary abruptly ended after that entry. The last few pages were torn, as if someone had violently ripped them out. Chapter 4. The hidden truth. As Anna pieced together the diary's contents, she became increasingly obsessed with the forgotten room. She was convinced that something important lay hidden behind that locked door. The more she learned about the house's history, the more she began to unravel its dark secrets. One evening, after her parents had gone to bed, Anna returned to the hallway. She took a deep breath, her fingers trembling slightly as she reached for the brass bolt. It gave way with surprising ease, and the door creaked open. Beyond it, the air felt colder, as if the room hadn't been disturbed in years. The musty scent of dust and decay filled her nostrils. Inside, the room was exactly as she had seen in her dream. The portraits, the mirror, the dust, it all felt familiar, as if she had been there before. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stepped inside, the floorboards groaning beneath her weight. She turned to face the mirror. Her reflection was the same until it wasn't. The reflection in the mirror flickered, and suddenly the hallway appeared. At this time it was darker. The shadows in the reflection seeming to stretch and writhe. Anna could see the door at the end of the hallway, just as she had in her dream. And beyond that door, she felt a presence, something ancient, something powerful, something that had been waiting for her. A voice echoed through the room, soft at first, then louder and clearer. "You shouldn't have come." Anna spun around, but the room was empty. The door behind her slammed shut with a deafening crash. The temperature in the room plummeted and Anna's breath turned to mist in the air. Her heart raced as she realized that she wasn't alone. Chapter 5. The awakening. The room began to change before her eyes. The walls closed in, the portraits seemed to warp, and the mirror began to pulse with an eerie, otherworldly glow. The presence grew stronger, and Anna felt her body being drawn toward the mirror, as if something invisible was pulling her closer. The voice spoke again, now a low, rumbling growl. "You have awakened me. Now you must face what you have disturbed." Anna struggled to move, but her body felt like it was rooted to the spot. She was trapped, her every instinct screaming at her to run. But she couldn't. The presence was overwhelming, and in that moment, she realized the truth. The room, the mirror, and everything tied to it were not of this world. They were part of something much older, much darker. In the reflection, a figure began to take shape, tall, shadowy, and monstrous. It stepped out from the mirror, its cold, dead eyes locking with hers. Anna gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. But just as the figure reached for her, a voice broke through the darkness. "Anna, wake up." It was her mother's voice. With a jolt, Anna snapped awake. She was back in her room, safe and sound. Her breath was ragged, and her skin was slick with sweat. Her heart was still racing. Had it been a dream? Or had she truly been in the forgotten room? The door to her room creaked open, and her mother stood in the doorway, concern etched on her face. "You were screaming. Are you okay?" Anna didn't answer immediately. She just stared at the mirror across from her, the same one she had seen in the room, and in its reflection, something moved. Chapter 6. The consequences. Anna's life changed after that night. The haunting presence seemed to follow her, manifesting in fleeting glimpses and eerie whispers. She couldn't shake the feeling that the room and its secrets had left an indelible mark on her soul. She tried to tell her parents, but they dismissed it as her imagination, running wild. But Anna knew the truth. The room was never meant to be disturbed, and now it was awake.